Good morning. It's day 8, I think, and I'm building a startup live-ish on YouTube and recording everything that I do. And it's called Shuffleboard. And it's a little earlier than I usually get started, just a little bit. It's not early. And I'm excited to get started today because, yesterday we were trying to do some DNS setup just to get this basic website up and running, and I'm hoping everything's sorted with that and we can get going. I think there's something, I was thinking about getting to work early in the morning, and I've been doing these videos, as I mentioned. I think I have, a regular work to be doing during the day, but I try to just do these for an hour or two in the morning. And there's something really nice about getting the work done in the morning, first thing. I am not a morning person, naturally, by any means, I don't think. I never have really been. But when I was just learning more programming stuff on the side, when I was an employee, or even now, if I have client work, if I have the time in the day to maybe work on something, that kind of work later, it's nice to wake up and just do something small, creatively in the morning, make that incremental progress, because otherwise, if you do it late in the day, it's just really, really hard to sit down and get something done productive, get something productive done at like 6 p.m. after a hard day's of work. So kind of come around to being a morning creative designer person, and then afternoons for meetings and stuff. And I've worked on, I've had engineering teams I've worked with that have done similar patterns. Let's do it. All right, so let's see. I'm going to first go to console.firebase.com. See what we got. I'm going to open my VS Code, and I know I'm going to want to go to I want my name.com/dashboard.dns/getshuffleboard.com. I'm going to have to sign in. Nope. Okay. Let's see. Open 2 more of these. Shuffleboard. Stage. Shuffleboard live. Where's my shuffleboard dev? Strange. But okay. Okay, so let's get to hosting. See if we can get this hosting working. dev.getshuffleboard.com. Continue. Verify ownership. Yeah, okay, so the DNS thing we put up yesterday propagated. So if I go to connect domain to all of these, it should automatically now verify each of them, which is very good. Yep, we've got verified ownership of each of these domains. So now we just have to add DNS records to actually point this domain to our Firebase site. And our Firebase stuff lives on these IP addresses. So we just got to copy these and say, hey, DNS person, when somebody goes to getshuffleboard.com or any of these subdomains, send them to this IP address. And it's the one that's Firebase. And Firebase knows when it gets traffic on that IP address to serve up our site. So these are all the same, I think. They kind of always are, 1 and 65. So I'm just going to do getshuffleboard.com, this. 55. Probably better to copy and paste this too, but I think I need to practice typing shuffleboard because otherwise I'll keep typing shuffleboard forever. Whoops. Sorry, I posted that on my phone. Save. It was sent. Okay. Finish. Oh shit. Yeah, I want to do that too. www. Gotta do the same thing. So now, once this is propagated, again, I don't have to wait. GetShuffleboard.com will work. This is actually a good sign. It says my connection is not private, which means that it's actually sending it to shuffleboard.com or GetShuffleboard.com, but it's doing it over HTTPS, and it doesn't have a certificate yet, and Firebase automatically generates those certificates. So that's just something we're gonna have to wait for maybe another day to get that set up and going. Excuse me. But there's nothing we gotta do for that. We just gotta wait, and everything will be set up and ready for us by the next time we talk. So that's really exciting. We got our domains going. Let's go into VS Code here. So this is our folder. I think I had to cut away from it last time briefly, but these are voice memos that we made already in the first episode, or second maybe. This is sketches of just some papers. Remember these? This is a screenshot of just something that I took. This is an old version of a question maker. And this is our app with all the files that we're going to use. Ooh, that's still got a service worker in there. Weird. Okay. So we're going to open up that app. Open up that app. Yarn start? What is it? I don't know how this yarn stuff works yet. How to use yarn? Let's figure it out for a second. Okay, that worked. We got our app up and running here. I sometimes just pin it to the side so I know I have it. This stuff, I'm not really sure we're going to need these. I'll leave one open. How to use yarn. So instead of npm install, we do yarn add, adding dependency. Okay, upgrade. Add, remove, upgrade. That seems simple enough. Okay. I think I can remember that. Okay. So we got our app here, and now we want to do some stuff with our app. Actually, before we do that, let's just look at this code, and I want to give you guys another little tour of what we built here so far. So we got two main folders here. 3, 4, 5, however many you want to say. This folder is the most important. Well, there's some stuff on the outside. This is like what packages we've installed with JavaScript. This is how to run the app. These are the packages and some scripts, again, that have to do with our JavaScript thing. There's a bunch of Firebase config stuff that just connects it to projects and is our database rules and database indexes. And then gitignore, which is a thing that tells Git which files we don't even want to commit to our version control memory because they're just irrelevant or they're just clutter. Or they're something we specifically don't want to have up on GitHub. And those files include node modules, which you can see is gray here. And that's just all the actual packages, all the JS stuff that is being used by stuff. And of course, we've already got a billion because it's JavaScript. It also includes build. Build is the final version of our app that's going to go put on the website. So what is all this stuff? I'm going to get rid of this just in case. I don't want service worker stuff going to my site. So I'll make it empty right now. Hopefully that didn't break anything. Because what's going to happen is every time we run stage or dev or live, it's going to create a new source code, put it in build, and that's going to be, not the source code, right? It's going to create a build. It's going to create a dense, unreadable, machine-generated version of our app that's going to be the one that actually goes live. But we don't want to work with that dense, crappy machine-generated version. We want to work with a bunch of, for example, there's all in one file. All the files are very squished and small. We want to work with big, airy, open files with very big variable names and things. We want to work with lots of different files so we can keep our app organized in our head. So the computer can read build, but we want to be reading source. This is the actual source of our app. And it's always going to contain an index file at this level that just tells React what to do here. And then this is telling React to render a thing called app. And this is our app, very small. And then there's a test to make sure app isn't terrible. Then the last folder here is public. And this could be in source because it's things that are useful, but these are things that aren't compiled really, they're just copied over to build. They're not like compiled like you would compile or what you would do with JavaScript. They don't do that. They don't minify and uglify and whatever the stuff that you do. Obfuscate. And so it's just a favicon that appears right here on our screen, and we'll replace that. And manifest, this is some stuff that tells apps, if you want to display this as an app on your home screen on your phone, for example, what's going on with it, what to call it, and where the icons are. And then this index.html, again, I think it could live in source, but really it doesn't. It's here. And so when we make this an app, what it's going to do is take all this JavaScript in source, dump a link to it in index.html, copy it all over to build. So anything we can add static stuff here like CSS if we wanted to, and images, but I'm going to add all our CSS in source. So public, we're not going to really worry about too much. It's not going to change that much. All of our stuff is going to go on in here. Okay. So I'm going to pull up Firefly and look at a two-factor thing. Okay. All right. And so if we have the same folders here, we have another one called scripts. So this is just stuff that will help me interact with the database, like running a migration or changing data. And functions, this is a backend for Firefly, but I'm not sure we're going to need that quite yet. And essentially the same stuff. So let's look in source in this Firefly. Again, Firefly is an open source React boilerplate that I made that helped me. This is sort of me learning Firebase and React in sort of in this app. And so I use this as a reference, and I will continue to use it as a reference to see what patterns I've used before, just so I'm aware of what I did last time, so I can move a little faster. So index.js is the same index we had on ours. It's just going to have a little bit more stuff in it, though. It's going to have how to import Firestore and some tracking stuff. We'll get to all that. And that has these three folders: action, styles, and views. Views are like the app thing we already have. In fact, there's one called app. It probably looks a little similar. And it also has separate folders for all the different kinds of pages we're going to have in our app. 2 other folders, styles, which we're not going to do today, and maybe not for a little while, because I'm a designer and I love working on how things look, and so if I do that, I'll just get distracted with do that forever. And then the other thing in here is actions, and this is like, this sort of roughly maps to views are like views in an MVC situation. Actions are like controllers. Models are handled by Firebase elsewhere, and styles are, I guess, separate. These actions essentially are things that we want to do, and we can call them from views, but we don't want all this logic mixed up in our views. So we're going to have a sort of a similar structure here. Maybe the first thing to do, though, would be to install the router so we can show different pages. And a router is a little bit of software that looks at what's going on up in this URL bar and shows different pages depending on what the URL is. And there's going to be a lot of URLs in our app, so we want a router to help us figure that out. Okay. Website. I'm going to do yarn add. No, I don't want that. Yarn add React router DOM. Let's copy this. I'm going to make a new file here called router. And another new file called home. Oops. All right, so what is our router going to do? Well, we've got React. We also need router, root, link. I don't think we need that one. Computer's chugging along. So these are other pages, in our app, and we're going to import them as let's see, I haven't done this in a while. The work in Firefly. Can I just do the name, or do I have to name it in the thing? Count from. I guess I have to do it in the thing. We'll get to this in a second. So home from home and app from app. So these are 2 pages we have, and our router is going to show one of these pages depending on the URL. We'll get rid of these for now. So if we go to this root thing here, we want to go to home. Root means if we go to if we're in the browser and we just go to getshuffleboard.com, we want to go to our home screen. But if we go to boards, I want to go to app. So now what are these two things, home and app? Well, app, home is what we basically made last time. I want to keep that basically how it is. And now I guess I need a link here to the app. So I'm going to import link. This is a component that React Router gives us to link to things in our app. You don't want to just use regular anchor tags. Forget why. Keep these consistent. Okay. Now the app itself, we want to show something that's going on here, that there's actually boards in theory. And that'll just be a board. App, we got home. Let's see how that works. Open up my DevTools here. Okay. So it's showing my boards on home. We don't want that. Oh, I know why. Because our index is just rendering our app. We don't want it to render our app, we want it to render our router. Oh my gosh, it works! So we can go to my boards and we'll go to /boards here, you can see. And now we're on my boards. My boards. So we got a router going. That's cool. It says router and root here, and they're only showing one at a time. You used to have to add a switch. Maybe not anymore. Well, the root might, I mean, I think we should still have it. Let's just make sure everything still works. Yep, it still works. Okay. Looking good. We got a new package here, the router. And yarn lock is going to have all kinds of stuff going on that we don't have to worry about. So that's good. Let's go and commit this. Done. I just want to check on my computer and make sure it's not going too crazy. I'm doing on time. 25 minutes. Let's just take a quick break just in case. I'll be back in a minute and we'll keep going. Okay, we're back. Everything's good. So we've got a basic thing going on here, and that's looking good. I think the next thing I want to do, because I want to constantly be, putting this up to live, is requiring a login. Just getting some basic authentication stuff in here might help. I think for a couple reasons. One, this boards, if we're going to do anything work here, it should be behind a login because we don't know how to say my boards, and we know we want to get a database in here soon so we can show something specific to people. And I'm just having trouble figuring out how I can incrementally provide value without identity, and that's kind of a common thing to have in an app. I know it's going to be, it's just something we're going to need to set up. So the easiest way to do that is actually just to go in and set up sign in with Google. Enable project. Enable, save. I'm just going to do this for each of my shuffleboard projects, set up sign in method. I guess I should be calling these shuffleboard. I guess the stage, all caps, wasn't really necessary. Just trying to keep it clean, keep things sorted. And this one should have been called just shuffleboard, so people can see that they're signing in for shuffleboard, not whatever that creepy number is. All right, so now let's go into Firefly and figure out how would we do this before. How have people in general, because I know this is pulled from just general patterns, how do we have the ability to log in? Maybe it's an account or layout. Profile and subscription, no, those are bigger. This might just be what we need. Just the login page here, looks like. So there's going to be a layout here, and basically the layout, you can have multiples, but this is basically just going to put stuff at the top of the page and the bottom of the page and let whatever happens in the middle happen. So this middle part here is going to just say render whatever. And so I think maybe it's time to just put a layout in first, and then in that layout we're going to have a login button. So let's this is all going to give us a good excuse also to put in some basic structure around these folders. So we looked at that folder structure before. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have actions. I'm going to views and styles. I'm going to drag app test, home, and router all into views. Those are all views. Index is going to be the only one at the sort of root level here. And because we did that, we need to say this went here. That's where this lives now. And everything else is relative, so they should be able to figure themselves out pretty well. And if we check here, it's still working. Cool. Let's just commit that. This is all new files and deleted files, but if we stage them all, it'll know that they were renamed. Cool. So back here, let's go to our views. We have a couple different things here. Let's add a new folder here called maybe a new file called layout. We'll just keep it flat for now. I'm not trying to get too fancy. So our layout is going to do a few things, and it's going to have children. So let's see here. Just copy and dump it all in. What have I done here? Header footer wrapper. What's all that? These are all styles. I don't really want to worry about these right now. So in the layout, we're going to have a div that just wraps everything, and then we're going to have a link to the home screen. It's going to say shuffleboard. If we want that link to work, we have to have a link. And we're also going to have a couple options here. We're not going to do search yet, but we are going to have this Firebase auth thing that's going to figure out if we're logged in or not, and lets us do that. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm not sure we're going to keep that in exactly for right now. Then you're going to go show your children, and the children are whatever you want this page to show. So we're going to get rid of this. This footer is very relevant. It should probably appear on every single page. So, hey, look, we should have just copied from there. That's that. This is some stuff that is going to be relevant in a minute, but not yet. So let's say we do this. Let's just get rid of it. I'm going to make a new file and just move all the stuff we don't really want to worry about yet over to the new file. We'll have it in a sec. Great. So we have a layout page, and I'm feeling a little rusty, but if I remember right, the simplest thing that we can do here is just throw this around our roots. Nope, where is it? Maybe in the app? Yeah, so basically just importing the app and layout here, and we're going to put it around every single root. So I'm going to do that in the router, I think, this time, just so that we keep our index. We don't really have an separate app page right now. I was going to say layout, and pass into layout this children. And we need to tell them what the layout is. Great. Now, this stuff is going to be duplicated a little bit because our app and our home stuff, they also have a little bit of this and a little bit of this, but we don't need this anymore because that's just going to appear on every page from now on. In fact, this link, boards, should probably also go in the layout. We'll give this a strong so you know it's the head honcho link. So let's see what we got. Hey, nice. Little space there. So shuffleboard and boards. This is going to link to home. This is going to link to boards. We go back and forth. No matter what, we always got the same footer at the bottom. Just throw an old horizontal row in there so you really get the idea. So this is nice. Now we got something really happening here layout wise. So that's just a start for a layout. I'm ready to commit it. Great. Now we're going to worry about the login stuff in a minute. I suppose we need a login screen. So what is this login stuff doing? Basically it's saying we need to get Firebase auth going on. That's a big one. And then once we have a logged in user and we know what's going on with our user, if the user's if it is loading, we're going to show a bunch of stuff. If it's not, we're going to log in. There's going to be a button to log in. Let's just start with the login button. Why not have a login button? Button. Unclick. Login. Oh, is not defined. We need to tell them what to do and what login means. So I'm going to go to actions here and create a new file. We call this login under source actions. And login is going to be a JavaScript file that says login goes here. And login from actions login, we're going to put that, that's now useful. So that's what this is. We're going to now import this JavaScript file that does a thing called login. It's a function. Import login. And when you click it, it's going to do that thing, which means we should probably make it an actual function. So that this thing works. I can never remember which is the different ways to export stuff in ES6 versus whatever. Okay, so now we got a little action here going on. So when they click this button, it's going to log in, ideally. You know what? I don't really need this. I got this over in the other one. Okay. So all we're dealing with is layout and login. So in layout, when they click login, it's going to trigger this function called login, which we are pulling from here. Let's see if it works. Oops. Attempt to actions login. Oh yeah. Well, maybe if I do this. Okay. So watch this space. This is a console.log. It should appear here when I click it. Hey, so that's good. So when you click this button, this login thing is happening. But what is this login thing that's happening? Well, nothing. Nothing's going on. So let's figure out how to log a user in. I'm going to just reference Firefly again. Source actions. And basically this is just going to be a little bit of Firebase code that logs somebody in. What is going on in here? So first we're going to import Firebase, which we haven't done yet, so we got to do that. React.ga, we're going to worry about that later. And the way that Firebase works, login, is you create this thing called a provider. In this case, we're going to use Google because that's what we enabled. And then return Firebase, which is our Firebase library, .auth, which is a function that gives us all the stuff that we can do with authentication in Firebase. And it's a promise. Sign in with redirect provider, which is this. So we're going to sign in with our Google thing. And then we're going to say we logged in as result, which is just something that it gives us, .user, which is the user it logged in as, .displayname, which is their name. And then catch is going to occur if this whole thing some point doesn't work. It's going to give us an error. And we're going to put that into the console as well. Could not sign in, error. That's pretty straightforward enough for now. So if we do this, look what's going to happen. Module not found. Oh. Module not found. Can't resolve Firebase/app in here. So we got to import Firebase. Now, I know it's probably as simple as a yarn add or npm install, but I just want to check the docs. What docs would those be? Maybe they have it here. Simple as that. Because I know it did change a little bit. Woof. Whoa. How do we add Firebase to our web project? I did all that from hosting URL, so we don't want to use that. That's what they told us to do yesterday. From the CDN, again, don't want to do that. Module builders, is this the same? No, we're not a node app, we're a module builders. Okay, npm install save Firebase. In our case, yarn add Firebase. Did I do that with the package manager? I forget. Gotta get used to that. Old habits. Die hard. Die hard. Okay. We gotta import specific stuff here and the products we want to use. So this looks all pretty similar to how I think it happened in Firefly. So we import Firebase from Firebase app. We know we wanted these things from Firebase 2. So let's get those in there. And we're going to put this on index. So I had it up here, I'm not sure why. So now we got to do this. We're going to not worry about this. This is all unrelated, but we do have to do this. Connect our app to Firebase. With some environment variables here. We're going to pull it in a second. So that's that. Now, when we went to that login thing, did we still need to say it? We just need to say Firebase so that we have a reference to this guy. So that's going to be enough here. It should be. Because we're already importing everything we need up here. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. When we load our app, it's going to get Firebase, which we've now installed. It's going to initialize it with these secret keys. Stay tuned. And then when you click login, it's going to know what to do because we've enabled Google login, and it's going to log us in. And we're going to see that in the console. Now the problem is these keys, Firebase API key, auth domain key, project ID, these are not variables yet. We haven't defined these anywhere. So we have to do that. Apps Firebase project configuration. Let's go to that. So we need our API key, our auth domain, and this stuff here. Let's download our Firebase config object. I think they must have made it a little harder since last time. Git config file here. Project settings, your apps, config, project settings, your apps. Oh, here we go. Cool. So I'm just going to copy this. And paste it here. So this is the stuff that we need to put in there. Now I could just copy and paste this in. Copy this, you know, here's our API key, and then go to here and say our API key is here. But now, well, I would have to do it like that. But now, now we've got all these API keys in our project, and so it's got a couple problems. One, now we're hard coding the app to be like the dev project. We don't, or the live project, but we don't want that. And two, it's not a good idea to just throw all your config like this in your code, because then you have to go through your whole code base to figure out where the config is changing. So if you have to change your project or something, it's just bad news. So we're going to try to get this in just a file somewhere, and then we're going to pull it in using this. So this was how it's done in Firefly. There's these files called n.dev.example, and it has our codes here, some example codes. And then in our package.json, when we run any of these things, it does this little magic here that says it's going to pull in this n.dev thing and then run the stuff we've already done. But there is an issue that somebody had issue with this. Maybe one of these. Is it this one? I think I commented on some idea. Okay. So maybe we can use this instead. You can use arbitrary build with custom end file loads it in. Okay, that sounds right. For example, create a build environment for a staging environment. Create an staging. Set environment variables as you would any other end file. Add a new script to your package.json, building with your new environment. Maybe I should be using that syntax. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, that looks like it should be better. So let's do that. So I'm going to create an environment file here. And this is going to be just an environment file, which is just basically a way to set variables in our computer. I don't need any of this. React app, you have to start with these, or at least you used to have to. And equals dev. So this is just the environment, and then this is some stuff that I want to live in this environment. So great. I'm going to do that. I'm going to save that as env.stage. I'm going to save that as env.live. And as you can see, each of these here is green, which means they're about to be committed to Git. I don't want them to be committed to Git. Do that. Does that do it? Yep. So now they're going to be ignored. And so when this pulls in, what else do I have to do? Did that, I did that, I did that, and okay. This is kind of boring stuff, but so it goes. Maybe that'll work. Okay. API key off the main project ID. Is that what we got? API key off the main project, yeah. So I'm going to say replace me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dev for project ID. Well, actually, let's just do the real one. It's shuffle board dev. Ooh. this is going to be live. This is going to be stage. I'm going to have a little test here in my index that says console.log environment so this should spit out this variable wherever we are. And that was in Firefly, essentially, too. So that way we'll just be able to make sure that if I'm on the stage server, it's pulling the right, the stage stuff, etc. Okay, so now we got end files with some test stuff. We'll replace this in a second. But first I just want to see if the damn thing works. Environment, undefined. Oh shit. Oh, well, did I do that in my npm start even? No. Oops. Did I do that? What's up? End file application dot env. So we need to check the documentation of this package to see how it's really supposed to work. Do I need a .env file? Let's just throw an empty one in there and see what happens. Ugh. Wow, that's not good. Let's Google that. How did that happen with one little file? We might have to go back to our old method. Oh, major breaking change. You have to pass an F. Is that it? Wasn't in React. The React docs. Invite a bin. That was it. Well, okay. Environment dev. Cool. So now we know that there's a lot going on here right now. So we're just getting these variables in here. And what are we doing with them? We're initializing our Firebase project. And we're doing a login. So all we should have to do now is throw our variables into these. And I clearly closed all this too soon, because I need all of these projects again. Except this one here, I need stage. This one I need dev. Okay. It says dev, no, live. Okay, dev, API key here. Now these are all posted publicly. You know, this is going to appear in your JavaScript code, so this isn't anything I can't share on this streaming. I think, hopefully, project ID, shuffleboard dev. Okay, that should be good. Live. API key. Auth domain. Shuffleboard live. Stage. API key. Auth domain. Let me start with our new variables. All right, log in. Log in user. Oh my God. Error restricted client. Not yet configured to make auth consent screen in Google Cloud Console. All right, what we gotta do? Oops, can't show you that. Oh, do I need to add an email? Is that what's up? I just needed to set a support email on this, I guess. That might be one thing I need to do in project settings. Let's find out. Oh, they made that confusing. Hey, it works. Okay. Sign in. Oh my gosh, people. I think I just logged in. That's wild. Okay, so before we finish this part here, we need to show, like, did that even work? And that's where this other Firefly stuff is going to come in real handy. So this is where we want to show a page, like based off of like part of the app based off whether they've logged in or not. So look at this layout. So this stuff here, remember all that stuff, that scary stuff we looked at? We're going to paste this in. I'm going to show you what's going on. So we've got a component called Firebase auth, which is something that we made here. Firebase auth from miscellaneous Firebase auth. Layout. Use miscellaneous Firebase auth. And what is Firebase auth? It's just a wrapper for some Firebase stuff. I'll show you. So Firebase for wrapper for Firebase authentication. Similar to the API for this package we're going to use later, but instead of returning a collection document, it returns the logged in user. So basically this says, okay, there's a thing called Firebase auth. It's a React component. It has some state. Is it loading? Which is true if you open it up. And is there an error? And have you authenticated? Is there some auth object that represents an authentication? Did it mount? Or did mount? When it mounts, basically, do this thing. Watch for state changes to the authentication, and do two things when it works and when it doesn't. And when it works, set the state with the result, auth here, and clear the errors in the loading. And if it doesn't work, set the state to the auth of nothing, add the error to the state, and it's also not loading. And then set this to a whole thing, whatever you get out of this, set it to an unsubscribe. And this is confusing the way Firebase does it, but this unsubscribe, it's just going to set this thing called this.unsubscribe to a function. So that when it unmounts, if there's a thing called there, you can call that function. That's just going to stop watching this whole thing. And then you render whatever you gave it with these variables. I know, I'm not going to do a whole tutorial on all this stuff because it's super confusing. It took me a hell of a long time to figure out myself. But what this does basically is it makes it so that anytime you use this, it watches whether the user is logged in and tells you about it. So if we import that here, let's just do it the normal way. I guess we can type import Firebase auth from Firebase auth. Then this thing will tell us if it's loading, if there's an error, and if there's an authentication. Now, if it's loading, we just want to show ... loading. If there's an error with the authentication, that'd be a bummer, but we're going to show login error, maybe without the emoji. And then if we have an auth, if it's not loading and there's no error, then one of two things happen. They're either logged in or they're not. If there's an auth, that means they're logged in. So we're going to show them their name. I think I can do that. And if there is no auth, that means that they're not logged in. So we're going to have our same old button on click, log in. And then we're going to show the children for the layout here, just as before. All right, let's see what happens now that we have this stuff here. Welcome back, Sam Pierce Lola. Oh my gosh, it knows who I am because of Google. So we don't want this button up here anymore. We have that down there. And we want maybe a thing that says, we want to be able to let them log out, probably. Log out. Now, log out doesn't mean anything, so we got to make a new thing called log out. We have log in, so make a log out. And let's steal it from Firefly. How do you log out in Firebase. Pretty simple, I think. Look at that. Not only is that already pretty simple, but most of this we don't even need because we're not tracking any events right now. So when you hit log out, firebase.auth.sign out. Couldn't be simpler. All right, now what do we got? Welcome Sampras. Oh, because I was using a JavaScript thing, but it's not a JavaScript thing. Welcome Sampras Lola. Log out. I'm logged out. Log in. Loading. Welcome. So now we really got a real auth system here. And that means that anytime we want to use this Firebase auth component in our app, it's going to know whether or not we're logged in or not. And if we are logged in, all this information about us that comes with this auth, including our name, etc. So that's pretty exciting. We got some good stuff going on there. I'm going to put a HR above this just so it's clear what's children and what's not. There we go. And I might as well just put this in a div and go to style here. I think gonna be the prettiest looking thing, but we don't want pretty right now. Pretty is just gonna distract us from getting this thing working. Look at that, shuffleboard. Boards. Hey look, this is getting to be a real app. So just to get this thing a little bit tidied up before we commit this big commit, I just want to make it so that this homepage reflects like a little bit of what this thing is. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add a button that says try it now. Try it out. Beta. It's not a beta software. It's way earlier than that. But I'm going to do sort of a similar thing I did in layout here, which is I'm going to include a login action here. So what is this doing? Even if I'm logged in, I mean, it's a bit buggy here. But if I'm not logged in, there's going to be a button here that says Shuffleboard helps you run live collaborative meetings, get updates. And I can click it. It's going to log me in. You know what I should do? How do I push? Maybe I'm not supposed to do this, but I just want to send them to their boards if they hit login. Woof. There's at least a small chance you'll hit it. Yeah, I kind of do. This dot prop set history to push. That sounds a little better. we have a history coming in because it's directly rendered by the router. That's erroneous. Okay. So this should make it so that I log in, which is this whole thing. It's going to return a promise. And if it breaks, it's going to do this. Which should just really make it an alert for now so that we're not handling any other issues. So I'm just going to straight up get in their face. Not a great error message, but at least it's there. So they're going to log in. When it works, then this thing is going to happen, which is a little anonymous function that says, hey, router history, send me to boards. And then they're going to go to the boards, which is our app. And it's going to say, we need a big div here that says, and I need a playlist to show. I'm just going to go into my YouTube studio. This stuff, I'm not sure what these YouTube uploads have been a little dicey, let me tell you. Yeah, how do I get there? Can I just put a big old obnoxious arrow in? Oh, maybe this playlist isn't live yet because I left this video as unlisted. So let's just say this. I don't want to say it's buggy because it's really not buggy. It does everything. I don't want to be shipping bugs. I just want to say it has a lot of missing features, which it definitely does. Is that enough? I was going to give this a style just so people really see it, but I'm not sure it's necessary. So let's do this. Let's log out. And when we log out, by the way, we should probably go to we're going to do the same thing with that. And we'll do that later. I don't want to clutter this commit with too much stuff. What have I done? For real? I'm just going to remove this. Yep, so that is breaking it. Log in, then, is it this? Nope, it's the fact that there's a then here at all. Oh, because I'm not passing a function anymore. That's probably it. Okay, so look, if you come to this page, you're going to see a login, and it's going to give you some prompts. It's going to help you run collaborative meetings. You can get updates. It'll break. Default then is not a function, really? Does login not return a promise? All right, let's get fancy. I don't really know what I'm looking at, to be honest with you right now. How'd this happen? We got this. Login is, well, it will be. How is login not defined? Would log out be defined? That's silly. Let's just try this. So I'm just going through and trying to do a bunch of shit to see where this is breaking exactly. And this is probably embarrassing because there's probably better ways to do this. So Bob works if it's down here, but not up here, which means nothing up here is working either. Why is login not a thing? No, I just don't know. I'm sure I'll look back on this and then figure it out. For now, we're just going to get rid of this. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I want to get this committed and wrap up this episode so that we can move on to other things. So for now, we're just going to say it's as simple as this. Shuffleboard helps you run live meetings. You can log in you'll get to the page. You can go to boards, and it'll say that there's a lot of stuff that's still TBD. Yeah, we gotta go. Don't need this now. That's simple. So I'm going to go through my stuff here. Git ignore. We have new environment files that are totally ignored. Package.json. We're now pulling in environment variables using this env command thing, and we've installed Firebase. Yarn lock is going to be a whole bunch of stuff. Index. Now we're showing the index, importing Firebase, and setting up our DB config and initializing based off of our environment variables. Login. New login screen, or new login thing. We have a new logout thing. App. That's updated here. And layout now has a login. So I'm actually gonna make two separate commits here. The first one is just gonna say, pull in Firebase environment variables. So to do that, we needed those environment variables files and the git ignore to ignore them. We needed this package to use env command to do that. So this is all part of this. Yarn lock is related to the thing that the new packages we added, so we're gonna have that. And then index is this. And so all this stuff is a separate world of just how to actually log in once we have that stuff initialized. And that's okay that we did it at the same time, but I'm going to commit it separately. Yep, okay, so I'm going to say separate, or use env command to pull in env specific config init Firebase. Maybe I should have those be separate too. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this, just the fact that we're pulling in the env config. I'm going to stage that. So this is all. Oh, yarn.lock. Well, whatever. Okay. Okay. So this is just going to be use env config to pull in env specific. Vars. Then I'm going to say also include a Firebase init Firebase here. Okay. I should push this to stage. I'm just going to push it to live. Firebase debug log. That should probably go in our git ignore, just so it doesn't show up. Commit that tomorrow, maybe. Is that what it even was? What was that file name called? I think so. I'm just going to do it. Okay. Shuffleboard live. Uh-oh, something broken. Your API key is invalid. Environment undefined. So this is not pulling in our stuff when we ship live. Why is that? Well, now we broke it on live, and that's why we do it ship to stage. So, lesson learned. You know what? Let's keep it clean. I'm going to go to live and roll this back. Okay, so shuffleboard is rolled back on live. By the way, can we check our getshuffleboard.com connected? Is it? Hey, look at that. Getshuffleboard.com has our live website on it, and I bet so does Stage. Has our broken one on it, which we just pushed, which is good because it's on a staging server. This is actually good. Okay, so our staging, our setup here is not working. Something about this is not showing our environment variables are not getting pulled in here. You know, what happened to our build here? Is our build, do we have a JavaScript file in this build? Let's see if we can find the area that has it's not in that file. Not in that file. What? Node env production. React app test hi is working. So it's pulling in this one, but not the others. That's crazy. React app test. Fascinating. So something's getting pulled in. This guy, this test is getting pulled in, but the other ones aren't. Are those like specific things I need to be calling specific things? Why is that? So let me do this. npm run stage, or run dev. So this is going to see if it's the difference. These are all pretty similar. If this all works, if this works, then it means it's something about the dev config specifically, because that's what's the same about these two. This one's working and this one. If these are two working, then it means it's that. If it doesn't work, then it means it's more, this line, which we just ran, is more similar to these, which means there's something else going on. So this will be a little moment of truth here. Also broken. So it's not the fact that this is the dev file that we're pulling from. It's something else here. It's something about the fact that we're deploying. I wonder if, like, is it this? That seems nuts. Maybe it's the fact that there's an and going on here. That might, I think that's probably it. I think this is just an issue with my limited knowledge of how bash works and how to string all this together at the same time. So I'm going to just try it like this. And we're going to get rid of all these. So I'm going to make some scripts here that are specifically just to deploy the thing out. And then the actual ones I'm just going to call. Like that. This is a kind of a shot in the dark, folks. If it doesn't work, I can go back to the way that I had to do this in Firefly, where you sort of do this whole source thing. But that would really defeat the purpose, because I want this to be cross-platform. Hopefully I can incorporate the answer back into Firefly. Oh, that doesn't look good. It worked! Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Sometimes it just works. Sometimes it just works. Oh my god, that's kind of neato. Scraped by once again. Skin of the teeth. We're gonna do stage. Not that. Hard refresh. Yeah. All right. I'm going to log in on stage. Whoops. domain. So we got to set the domain for these. Authentication, 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 authentication. So our sign-in method here, I don't think I want to click that. How do I do that? Auth sign-in method tab. Auth sign-in method. Oh, down here. Add a domain. Okay. Can I log in now? Probably. Sign in. Hey. So look, I signed into Stage. And now I'm going to go to getshuffleboard.com, which I haven't pushed to live yet. Now we're going to push a working version. Didn't I get ignore that just a second ago? So now when we refresh getshuffleboard.com, we can actually see the boards. And can we log in? We can. Look, now I'm logged in on these boards and I got a name. And if I go to live and go to users in each of these, you're going to see that since I've signed in, I've actually got my user here for each of these pieces. So now we have real live users. You can now go to shuffleboard.com and sign up, and I'll have a record that you did, and then I'm actually, getting real users now. That's a really big deal. And a little bit of, shuffling to get it to work here. A little bit of hustle to get that going, but it checks out. Okay. So now we had a bug here. We thought this was working. It wasn't. It only worked for dev. So now we're going to add this thing. We're just going to call that the script's good for now. We'll figure them out later if we want to clean them up. And say fix and var and vars are available in builds. Bug, yeah, fix bug where and vars were not available in so now it's all on live. It's all pushed to GitHub. We've got a nice clean working version with some new stuff. We've got some basic layout. We're connected to, we got a router, and we can let users sign in. And that's pretty good for an hour and a half or so. Okay. I'm going to wrap up for the day. We got to get on to some other stuff. But I hope this was useful. Again, I feel like we had another little baby step toward progress of getting this thing up and running. Not the least of which is getshuffleboard.com. Who can argue with that? Not going to be around tomorrow. I have some work to do. But hopefully Friday we'll be able to hop on and take the next step. I'm not sure what that's going to be. I'll think about it.